Hey, coming to you live from my home for the last 30 years. Mr. Stevens left and I took over this room, and I've been here ever since, teaching 6th grade, and I've enjoyed it immensely. I'm going to start with a poem that Derek Nichols wrote me a long time ago. It's called My Teacher. My teacher is Mrs. Newman. Sometimes she's really mean. It often makes me wonder if underneath her skin is green. One day her nails grew, it made her look like a gnome. Her next assignment was for me to write this poem. I didn't think I'd like it. It kind of made me mad. But once I got it started, it wasn't quite so bad. My teacher helped me out. She gave me good advice. So even though I think she's mean, I guess sometimes she's nice. And that kind of sums up my career here in this room, is me pushing the kids and them finding out that they like to be pushed in the end. So I've enjoyed having that poem with me all these years. So I heard he's married to Amy Perkins, who was in my...
Allie.
Or Allie Perkins, okay. Well, maybe it was, I don't know who I had anymore. I'm too old.
Hi, Suestedtke, and I have known Donna for over 30 years. We started before even Brandywine. I knew her when she did her first teaching experience at Mary Frank Elementary School in Granger, Indiana, because I was doing my student teaching with Eleanor Quantz, and who she had done her student teaching with as well the year before. So we go back a long way. And taught with her for 21 years for 6th grade. She has been my rock. She was a bridesmaid in my wedding, and I have seen her children grow up, get married, have grandchildren, and now she is a Gigi herself, a great-grandma, with Patience, having a little girl now.
My first day of teaching in this room, contrary to what you think, it wasn't in the Stone Age. I don't really remember that much. I know I was scared. I know I probably taught the rules and all the expectations, and we had some opening games and got to know each other like that, because I do that every year. But it's just, when I found out 6th graders still like stickers, I think I was okay and I was over the hump. Challenges 30 years ago, challenges today. Whew. Teaching kids how to persevere and research information was a challenge, since we didn't have computers when I first started. And I remember taking my class to Niles Library to go through the magazine stacks and the microfiche so we could do some research. And nowadays it's teaching kids not to copy and paste everything, because they have so much information at the tips of their fingers. So that's big difference. 30 years ago, students were a lot more isolated because less technology, and so they played games more and interacted more. And nowadays they don't have any attention span, and I find myself going from one activity to another, just trying to get them to stay interested in what I'm teaching. So that's another big difference. And lots of things I'm going to remember. Ooh. I remember a time I was working through the summer with Mrs. Suestedtke on some novel units, because that was the new big thing at that time. And we were studying Western Hemisphere, and that was the Aztecs, the Maya, and the Inca. And we wanted some cattails and some leaves of the cattails so that we could do some weaving, because that's what one of the groups built their homes on. Put mud on them and floated them, so they're floating homes. And we went out to this pond on Redfield Road, and we were gathering these for our activity, and policeman stopped I thought sure we were going to get arrested. He told us it wasn't allowed for us to be able to get in the ponds and take the plants out. So I'm just glad that didn't change into us being arrested for teaching something in class. I'll remember the joy working with gifted students for several years. We made quipus, a Mayan accounting system, out of found materials. I know one of the kids did it out of toothbrushes and the little picks that you clean your teeth with. One did it out of washers. That was interesting. We made Rube Goldberg contraptions and studied folk tales, made elaborate masks. I took a group of math count students to, it was Southwestern Michigan College at the time, and they won second place, and they were so excited. And we were all dumbfounded because I just wanted them to have the experience, and that was a pleasant result for them. I remember science fairs. I started the science fair back before I even started teaching, and I've been doing it all these years. The dressed egg drop was always my favorite. There was one student, I don't know if I should say his name or not, Tom Buzzard. I don't know if anybody remembers Tom Buzzard.
I remember Tom.
He was so intelligent. But his idea was to take a hamburger container and fill it with rocks and put the egg on top, because his idea was that the rocks would hit first and therefore the egg would remain intact. So he found out his hypothesis was wrong. I remember challenging my students to make their NWEA goals, and I could always make these wild, elaborate challenges like, if you all make your goals, I'm not going to have homework the rest of the year. And I always in the back of my mind thought, oh, there's going to be one that doesn't make it, so I'm going to be okay. Well, one year the class worked so hard. I think it was the class that's graduating this year, I'm not positive. But they worked so hard, every one of them made their goal. And my challenge was that I would dye my hair any color of their choosing if they all made their goals. Well, they all made their goals. And their idea was for me to dye my hair like a ladybug, orange with black dots. I was so nervous. So I talked to Mrs. Rizzo and Mrs. Douglas, and they took over and talked to the class, and we finally settled on shades of blue and purple. And they actually dyed my hair for me, and that turned out to be kind of fun, and I kind of liked the purple, so I stuck with that for many years until my dye color kind of went off the shelves. I'm going to remember hooking Mr. Boger into coming into my class whenever I was doing a poetry lesson. He would sit in the back of the room doing his little poems. He'd always come up with something that would irritate some of the teachers, like eating little lambs or spiders, which would make Mrs. Broville shiver a little bit. But that was fun having him share his poetry with my kids. I'm going to remember Camp Read-A-Lot, when we set up tents in the room and a pretend fire and sat around the fire and did some reading. Talk Like a Pirate Day, Pie Day. I'm going to remember teaching Dark is Rising and reading that with the kids. That was one of my favorite books. And by the way, it's a little bit embarrassing when you go in for a colonoscopy and you sit in that little room waiting for everything to get started, and then a former student pops their head in through the curtains. Hi, Mrs. Newman, how are you? And you don't want to meet one of your students on that day, but thankfully she was working with other patients and not me, so she didn't get to see more of me than I wanted her to see.
So this is my end of my third year at Brandywine Elementary, and when I first came to Brandywine, Mrs. Newman was assigned to be my mentor, and not only my mentor, but a grade level partner. She's been phenomenal to work with over these 3 years. I have never seen a more creative teacher who puts so much effort into engagement for her children in her classroom. She really cares about the creative side of teaching, and a lot of times that can get lost with all of our stuff that we have to get done for state requirements. But she still finds a way to make things fun for her kids. And a big thing that she has helped me with over the years has been hooks. And a lot of people won't know what those are. If you're a teacher, you will. But she is phenomenal at capturing her audience when she is teaching. And so her and I have had fun over the years coming up with different fun hooks for lessons that we've done in the classroom. I'm really going to miss you, and I wish you the best.
5 things I will not miss or think about. Boot season. M-step testing. PD day to go over the M-step results and school improvement plans. I'm not going to miss that alphabet soup of acronyms that they're always being asked to remember, and I can't quite remember what all the letters stand for. I'm not going to miss that one bit. And then I'm not going to miss those teacher evaluations that we all know cover all the sections on the page, and just reducing teaching to a set of rules instead of the art of teaching. 5 things I will miss. Laughing in the halls with my teacher friends over something silly that happens in the class, like the time I was doing Jiffy Pop over the little burner in one of my science demonstrations, and the handle came off and popcorn started going everywhere, and I was so afraid the smoke alarm would go off. That ended up being funny later, but not at the time. I'm going to miss watching the light go on in my students' eyes when they finally figure out how to do something. I'm going to miss poetry and writing from students who surprised me with the depth of their understanding and maturity. I don't know if I can do this now. Having a place to go that makes me feel like I make a difference. Oh, and I'm going to miss those cards at the end of the year when kids tell me and thank me for being part of their journey. So what do I plan to do now? Oh my gosh, new adventures. My husband's retiring at the same time. We're both fairly healthy. We're planning many adventures. We got our kayaks outfitted with pole holders, so we both have our kayaks. We got our RV, and we're starting to get that outfitted. We're not planning our trips yet because we don't know if we're going to be able to get into the parks yet, so we're kind of waiting on that. But we want to visit all the national parks. In the meantime, I've got my gardens. I like to make art out of junk. I made a giant moss man this weekend in the yard. Just doing silly stuff like that, write poetry, learn how to play my dulcimer again. What else am I going to do? Enjoy my grandchildren. I'm not going to worry about snow days because if I don't want to go out, I'm not going. So worked with some good people. I thank you all, and I think I'll miss you. That's enough.
That's enough.
She has always been a true friend. We have opposite teaching styles. When we get together to do something, she's like, stop. You cannot rush ahead and get things done like this. I need to see the whole picture. Donna's a whole picture kind of thing, and I'm just gung-ho. So we worked well together because I pushed her forward and she slowed me down. So that was always good. And it was definitely a godsend to have her as a friend. And I appreciate it always. And I'm going to miss her. Being here, it's not going to be the same. So Donna, I wish you the best in retirement. Enjoy all the grandbabies and great-grandbabies and Carl. If Carl doesn't drive you nuts. I hope he doesn't. You take care, okay, and love you.